Now, you mentioned you are an immigration lawyer. You are based in Texas. I'm wondering, Kate, what are you hearing from your community, and what are the questions that your firm has been fielding the most this year, or even since this memo was uncovered, or since May of last year?
I think the most heartbreaking thing is that the number one question I get from people is how to protect their kids and how to keep their kids from being taken from them. And it's a legitimate concern. So my number one piece of advice to immigrant families where one or both of the parents doesn't have a green card or citizenship is to create a family plan and to have a caregiver authorization for someone who can come and get the kids quickly if either parent is being picked up. Because if not, those kids might be placed into the state foster care system, and it might be a battle just to get the children reunited with their parents. And I've worked on reunification cases. It is hard. It is hard to get these kids back to their parents. And so the number one thing I think parents need to do is think through how to protect their children, because the threat is very real.
And going back to where we started this conversation with the difference between a judicial warrant versus an administrative warrant, if someone is presented with an administrative warrant, if agents come to their home and present a warrant that is not a judicial one, what would you tell that person in this hypothetical situation?
Do not open the door unless you see a judicial warrant that is signed by a judge. And they can be difficult to identify, but what you're looking for is the name of a federal court, like the Western District of Texas, and a signature from an actual judge. An ICE warrant is a piece of paper. It's often Form I-205, and it'll say something like the Department of Homeland Security. So it'll say an agency versus a court. You can ask them to show you this piece of paper that they have through the window or slide it under the door, and do not open the door unless they have a judicial warrant that is signed by a judge. If they break down your door, it is safest and best to comply and cooperate and not to resist. And we've seen what happens when people resist arrest. But I also think it's very useful for us to record with our phones when we can, but also set up both our cars and our homes with automatic recording devices, like a dash cam or some type of camera, a doorbell camera that will automatically record, date, time, audio. So all of that is already being done for you if you can't reach your phone. And again, we know that we have to just not get aggressive. Another thing that I think is really important is that we know that the Trump administration is itching to use the Insurrection Act against the American people. And so what they're looking for is for some protester or some detainee to get violent with them so that they can justify calling out the military and bringing the military against the American people. So all of us need to understand and not give that moment to them and not get violent, as distressing as it is to be in a situation where our rights are being violated.
We've covered a lot of ground as it relates to this specific memo, and I know there's been a lot of other news swirling around ICE and its activities this month. But for the sake of keeping this conversation focused, Kate, is there anything else we should know that the Forbes audience should know about this memo, about constitutional law as it relates to searches by federal agents with a warrant?
I know that oftentimes we think about what else can I do? And sometimes hearing call your legislators feels like it's not getting anywhere. What I want to say is when we're concerned about our constitutional rights being violated by our very own law enforcement, we do need to be contacting our legislators. You can contact your congressperson, you can contact your senator, and you can tell them that you are a constituent and you are worried about what is going on. And you need Congress to stand up for you and your own constitutional rights. These calls do get tallied and they do matter, and public opinion matters. So also share this video, talk to the people that you think aren't aware of what's going on, the ones who aren't chronically online because they're protecting their mental health. Make a phone call to 5 people and have them call 5 people. We need to get the word out about what's happening, and it's up to us, those that are paying attention, to make sure the ones that aren't paying attention start to be aware.
Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, immigration attorney and CEO of Lincoln-Goldfinch Law. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your analysis and insight. We really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.